The executive's fountain pen froze mid-signature. The security guard's coffee cup stopped inches from his lips. Even the perpetually distracted night receptionist looked up from her phone, her eyes wide with disbelief. 2:15 in the morning, Sterling Financial Tower. 50 floors of Manhattan, steel and glass, home to some of the most powerful investment firms in the world. And echoing through every marble corridor, every executive suite, every empty conference room, was a sound that hadn't been heard in this building for nearly a decade. Piano. Not just any piano. Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto played with a virtuosity that made the air itself seem to tremble. The old Steinway concert grand in the lobby, the one positioned like a museum piece behind velvet ropes, the one with a brass plaque that read, "Do not touch," the one that existed purely as a symbol of the building's supposed appreciation for the arts, was singing. Not the tentative plinking of an amateur, not the careful practice runs of a student. This was the sound of someone who had made a pact with the piano itself, someone whose fingers knew secrets that most people would never understand. 40 floors above Victoria, Brennan, CEO of Sterling Financial and owner of the building, sat up in her penthouse bedroom. She had been reviewing quarterly reports, as she often did in the middle of the night when sleep wouldn't come. But now the papers slipped from her hands. She knew this piece. She had tried to play this piece once a lifetime ago, before she accepted that her fingers would never possess the magic required to bring Rachmaninoff to life. But someone in her building at 2 in the morning was playing it perfectly. Her hand reached for the phone to call security, to demand they stop whoever was violating the sanctity of her lobby, to restore order to her carefully controlled world. But her finger hovered over the button, because the sound was too beautiful to stop, and because something in the way those notes cascaded through the speakers told her that whoever was playing wasn't just touching the keys. They were bleeding onto them. Let's go back. Let's start where all great transformations start, in the invisible spaces with the invisible people, in the hours when the powerful are sleeping and the forgotten are wide awake. Sterling Financial Tower is not just a building. It's a monument to American capitalism, a cathedral of wealth where fortunes are made before breakfast and destroyed before lunch. The lobby is a masterpiece of intimidation, 30-foot ceilings, imported Italian marble chrome fixtures that cost more than most people's cars. Everything is designed to make you feel small, to remind you that you're in the presence of something greater than yourself. The Steinway piano sits in the center of this lobby, like a jewel in a crown. 9 feet of polished ebony built in 1893, worth more than most houses in America. It was purchased at auction by Victoria Brennan's grandfather in 1957 when he founded Sterling Financial. For decades, it was played at company galas, at charity events, at Christmas parties, where champagne flowed and bonuses were announced. But that was before the world became too busy for beauty, before everything became about efficiency and profit margins, before the piano became just another prop in the theater of corporate success. Now, it sits behind velvet ropes, a museum piece untouchable. A sign beside it reads, "Historical Artifact. Please do not touch, for display purposes only." For 15 years, Devon Mitchell has cleaned around that piano. 52 years old, 6'2", broad shoulders that have carried mop buckets and garbage bags through the night shift for longer than he cares to remember. Hands that are calloused and scarred from industrial cleaning products and endless hours of manual labor. He works the graveyard shift midnight to 8 a.m. 5 nights a week. He arrives through the service entrance, He clocks in. He empties the trash from 50 floors of offices. He vacuums the executive suites. He scrubs the bathrooms that the bankers and traders use during the day. He mops the marble lobby until it shines like glass. And every night, at approximately 2:30 in the morning, when he has finished cleaning the lobby and is about to move to the upper floors, he pauses at the Steinway. He removes his heavy work gloves. He takes out a special cloth from his cart, the softest one he owns, the one he bought with his own money, because the company-issued rags are too rough. And he dusts the piano. He moves carefully around it, his touch so gentle that you would think he was handling something alive, something that might break if he pressed too hard. He cleans each key without actually pressing it down. He polishes the wood until it glows under the lobby's dim night lighting. The other custodians think he's crazy. They mock him, sometimes call him the piano man, with barely concealed derision. Why waste 15 minutes every night babying a piano that no one plays, that no one even looks at, except tourists taking selfies? But Devon doesn't respond to their teasing. He never responds to much of anything. In 15 years at Sterling Financial Tower, he has barely spoken 100 words to anyone. He does his job. He collects his paycheck. He goes home to his studio apartment in Washington Heights, where he lives alone, where he has lived alone for 23 years. No one knows anything about Devon Mitchell. No one knows where he came from. No one knows what he does on his days off. No one knows that when he touches that piano, when his fingers hover over those keys for just a fraction of a second longer than necessary, his hands tremble. No one knows that behind his silence is a story that would break your heart. No one knows that Devon Mitchell, the invisible custodian on the night shift, the man who empties your garbage and cleans your toilets, was once considered one of the most promising pianists of his generation. Devon grew up on the south side of Chicago in the 1980s, in a neighborhood where survival was the primary curriculum, and dreams were considered luxuries for people who lived somewhere else. His mother worked 2 jobs, one as a nurse's aide during the day, and another cleaning office buildings at night. His father left before Devon's 5th birthday. There were no piano lessons in the Mitchell household. There was barely enough food. But when Devon was 7 years old, something happened that would change the trajectory of his life. The community center 3 blocks from his apartment building had a piano. It was an old, upright, badly out of tune with several broken keys and a bench that wobbled dangerously. Someone had donated it decades earlier, and it sat in the corner of the recreation room, ignored by everyone except the kids, who occasionally banged on it to make noise. Devon walked past that piano every day on his way home from school, and one afternoon when the center was nearly empty, and he had nowhere else to go because his mother wouldn't be home for hours, he sat down at that piano and put his fingers on the keys. He didn't know what he was doing. He had never had a music lesson in his life. But something happened when he touched those keys. Something clicked in his brain. Some door opened that he didn't know existed. The sounds made sense to him in a way that words never had. He began to experiment, finding patterns, discovering that certain combinations of notes created feelings in his chest. He came back the next day, and the next, and the next. Within a month, he was playing songs he had heard on the radio, working them out by ear. Within 6 months, he was creating his own melodies, his own harmonies, his fingers moving across the broken keys like he had been born to do exactly this. Mrs. Eleanor Patterson, the community center director, noticed. She was an older black woman who had seen a lot of talented kids come through her doors, and she had seen most of them get swallowed by the streets. But there was something different about Devon. When he played piano, he went somewhere else, somewhere safe, somewhere beautiful. She called in a favor from a friend who taught music at Northwestern University. The professor came down to the South Side on a Saturday morning, skeptical, expecting to waste his time on another overhyped kid with marginal talent. He listened to Devon play for 5 minutes. Then he made a phone call. Within a year, Devon had a full scholarship to a prestigious preparatory music academy. By the time he was 14, he was performing in recitals. By 16, he was winning competitions. By 18, he had been accepted to the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia, one of the most selective music conservatories in the world, with a full scholarship. Curtis was where the serious musicians went. Curtis was where prodigies became professionals. Curtis was where Devon Mitchell, the kid from the South Side, who had learned to play on a broken upright at a community center, found himself studying alongside students who had been groomed for musical greatness since they were in diapers. And he held his own. More than held his own. He excelled. His professors said he had something rare. Not just technical skill, though his technique was flawless. Not just musicality, though his interpretations made grown men weep. He had that indefinable quality that separates the merely excellent from the transcendent. When Devon played the piano, became a voice. His voice. Raw and honest and utterly compelling. It was at Curtis that he met Alicia. Alicia Rodriguez. A pianist from San Antonio, Texas. Brilliant, fierce, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with her appearance and everything to do with the light that seemed to radiate from her when she played Chopin. She was 1 year ahead of Devon, and when she heard him play for the first time at a student recital, she waited for him afterward and said 6 words that changed his life. "We should play together sometime." They became inseparable. They practiced together. They performed together. They fell in love in the way that only 2 people who speak the same musical language can fall in love, where entire conversations happen in glances during a duet, where arguments are resolved through improvisation, where intimacy is measured in the space between 2 notes. By Devon's senior year, he had already been offered positions with 2 prestigious orchestras. He had a manager. He had a recording contract being negotiated. The classical music world was starting to buzz about Devon Mitchell, the pianist from Chicago, who was going to be the next great American interpreter of the Russian Romantics. And then 3 months before his graduation, Alicia told him she was pregnant. They were terrified. They were thrilled. They were 22 and 23 years old, with their whole lives ahead of them. And now there was going to be 3 of them. Devon proposed immediately. They got married at City Hall with 2 classmates as witnesses. They found a tiny apartment in West Philadelphia. They talked about their future, how they would both perform, how they would take turns staying home with the baby, how they would raise a child surrounded by music. Devon's final recital was scheduled for May 15th. He was going to perform Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto, the piece he had been preparing for 2 years, the piece that would serve as his thesis, his statement to the world about who he was as a musician. On May 11th, 4 days before the recital, Alicia went to her prenatal checkup. She never came home. A drunk driver ran a red light at the intersection of Market and 34th Street. Alicia's car was hit on the driver's side at 60 miles per hour. She died instantly. The baby, a girl they were going to name Maya, died with her. Devon didn't perform at his final recital. He didn't graduate. He didn't attend the funeral, because if he didn't go to the funeral, then maybe it wasn't real. Maybe if he stayed in their apartment and waited long enough, Alicia would walk through the door with her hand on her belly, and that smile on her face. The smile that made everything else disappear. But she didn't come through the door. And something inside Devon Mitchell, the part of him that played piano, the part that made music, the part that believed in beauty and meaning and purpose, shattered so completely that he never found all the pieces. He left Philadelphia in the middle of the night with a single suitcase. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. He just disappeared. He ended up in New York because New York is where people go to disappear. He found a job as a custodian because custodians are invisible. He found an apartment where he could be alone. And he made himself a promise he would never touch a piano again. Because touching a piano meant remembering. And remembering meant feeling. And feeling meant acknowledging that Alicia and Maya were gone and never coming back. For 23 years, Devon kept that promise. Until tonight. May 11th, the same date. Every year, Devon marks it quietly, privately, in ways that no one else would notice. He doesn't take the day off. He doesn't visit a grave because he never went to the funeral, and he doesn't know where Alicia is buried. He just works. He cleans. He moves through his shift like a ghost, and if his hands shake a little more than usual when he's wringing out the mop, no one notices. Tonight is different. Tonight is May 11th, but it's also what would have been Alicia's 46th birthday. If she had lived. If the drunk driver had stayed home. If the universe had any sense of justice or mercy or fairness. Devon arrives at Sterling Financial Tower at 11:45 p.m. He clocks in. He loads his cart with supplies. He takes the service elevator to the 50th floor and begins his routine. Trash bins, recycling, vacuum, dust, bathrooms, conference rooms, executive offices with views of Manhattan that stretch from the Hudson to the East River offices that cost more per square foot than Devon makes in a year. He works mechanically, but his mind is somewhere else. His mind is in Philadelphia, in a tiny apartment with peeling wallpaper and a hot plate for a stove, where he and Alicia used to sit on the floor and eat takeout Chinese food while planning their future. His mind is at Curtis, in a practice room, where Alicia would play, and he would listen where sometimes she would make a mistake, and laugh, and say again, and start over, and he would fall in love with her all over again. By 2 a.m., he has finished the upper floors. He takes the elevator down to the lobby. The night receptionist is on her phone, barely acknowledging his presence as he wheels his cart across the marble floor. The security guard is making his rounds on the upper floors. Devon is alone. He begins his usual routine. Trash receptacles. Dusting the modern art sculptures that no one understands, but everyone pretends to appreciate. Polishing the chrome fixtures. Mopping the marble until his reflection stares back at him from the floor. And then he reaches the piano. He stops. Usually this is automatic. Gloves off. Special cloth out. Gentle dusting. 15 minutes of careful cleaning while his hands tremble and his chest tightens, and he very carefully doesn't think about anything except the immediate task in front of him. But tonight, standing in front of the Steinway with the empty lobby stretching around him and the silence pressing in from all sides, Devon feels something crack inside him. 23 years. 23 years of silence. 23 years of pushing the music so far down that sometimes he can almost convince himself it was never there at all. 23 years of walking past street performers with their keyboards and their guitar cases and their dreams and feeling nothing. 23 years of hearing music in stores and restaurants and waiting rooms and letting it wash over him like meaningless sound. 23 years of keeping his promise. But tonight Alicia would have been 46. Tonight Maya would have been 22, probably graduating from college, probably beautiful like her mother, probably with that same fierce determination and that same generous heart. Tonight, the weight of all those years, all that silence and all that carefully constructed emptiness is crushing Devon Mitchell. His hands are shaking as he removes his work gloves. He looks around the lobby. Empty. The security cameras are recording, but they're always recording, and no one ever reviews the footage from the night shift unless something goes missing. The night receptionist has her earbuds in, lost in whatever show she's binge-watching on her phone. Devon reaches out and touches the velvet rope that guards the piano. He shouldn't. He knows he shouldn't. He knows that touching this piano could cost him his job. He knows that this piano is worth more than he will earn in his entire lifetime. He knows that people like him don't sit at pianos like this. But his hands lift the velvet rope, and his feet carry him to the bench, and his fingers find the keys. The wood of the bench is smooth under him. The keys are cool under his fingertips, and for the first time in 23 years, Devon Mitchell feels whole. He doesn't plan what he's going to play. His conscious mind has no part in this decision. His fingers simply know. They remember. Muscle memory that has been sleeping for more than 2 decades wakes up all at once. Rachmaninoff's second piano concerto, the piece he was going to play at his final recital. The piece he had perfected, had made his own, had planned to perform as his gift to Alicia and their unborn daughter. The piece he never played. Until now. The first notes are tentative. His fingers are stiff from years of manual labor from harsh chemicals and hot water, and the brutal repetition of custodial work. The piano is magnificently in tune, maintained by a professional tuner who comes twice a year to service it, even though no one plays it. The sound that emerges is soft at first, uncertain, like someone speaking after years of silence. But then something happens. The music starts to flow, and Devon stops thinking. He stops worrying. He stops being afraid. He just plays. What he doesn't know, what he can't know because he is lost in the music, is that the Sterling Financial Tower has an automated sound system. The building's original architect, back in the 1960s, installed speakers throughout the entire structure designed to carry music from the lobby piano up through every floor. It was meant for those company galas, those Christmas parties, those moments when the building would transform into something magical. The system hasn't been used in years, but it's still functional, and it's still connected to the lobby piano. And when Devon Mitchell begins to play Rachmaninoff at 2:15 in the morning, the sound doesn't stay in the lobby. It goes everywhere. The security guard on the 30th floor drops his flashlight. It hits the carpeted hallway with a muted thump, and he doesn't even notice, because every molecule of his attention is focused on the sound coming from the speakers embedded in the ceiling. He's worked at Sterling Financial for 7 years, and those speakers have never made a sound. He thought they were broken. He thought they were decorative. But now they're playing piano. No, not playing. Singing, weeping, soaring. On the 42nd floor, an associate who's been working late on a merger deal saves her document and removes her headphones. At first, she thinks she's imagining it. Some kind of auditory hallucination brought on by too much coffee and not enough sleep. But no, it's real. Someone is playing piano, and it's the most beautiful thing she's ever heard. On the 15th floor, a junior analyst who fell asleep at his desk jerks awake, disoriented, thinking he's died, and this is what heaven sounds like. On the 7th floor, 2 members of the cleaning crew stop their work and look at each other with wide eyes. They know Devon is down in the lobby. They know it must be him. But this can't be Devon. Devon doesn't talk. Devon doesn't laugh. Devon certainly doesn't play piano like this. In the lobby, the night receptionist has removed her earbuds. She's standing now, her phone forgotten, staring at Devon with an expression of complete shock. She has seen this man 5 nights a week for 3 years. She has barely spoken 10 words to him in all that time. She thought he was simple. She thought he was just another faceless custodian who emptied trash and mopped floors and had no life beyond this building. She was wrong. Devon's eyes are closed. Tears are streaming down his face, soaking into his work shirt, but he doesn't stop playing. He can't stop. The music is pouring out of him like water from a broken dam, 23 years of silence rupturing all at once. His fingers know exactly where to go. The piece is 17 minutes long, and he plays every note from memory, not because he's trying to remember, but because his hands never forgot. The Rachmaninoff Second is not an easy piece. It's technically demanding, emotionally exhausting, the kind of composition that reveals everything about the person playing it. There's nowhere to hide in Rachmaninoff. Every flaw, every hesitation, every moment of doubt gets amplified and exposed. But Devon has no flaws tonight. His technique is flawless. His interpretation is devastating. The first movement builds slowly melancholic and introspective, like someone remembering something beautiful that's been lost. The famous opening chords ring through the lobby, through the speakers, through 50 floors of steel and glass, and it feels like the building itself is waking up. By the second movement, people are emerging from the upper floors. The associate from 42 takes the elevator down. The junior analyst from 15 walks down the stairs because the elevator is too slow. The cleaning crew sets down their equipment and gathers at the mezzanine railing, looking down at the lobby below. The security guard abandons his post and hurries to the ground floor. They come quietly, reverently, like people entering a church during a service that's already begun. They don't want to interrupt. They don't want to break whatever spell is happening. By the time Devon reaches the second movement, the lobby is no longer empty. There are 20 people watching him, then 30, then 40. Word is spreading. In the age of smartphones and social media, secrets don't stay secret for long. Someone is live streaming on Instagram. Someone else is texting their colleagues who live nearby. Someone is calling their spouse, holding up the phone so they can hear. The second movement is where Rachmaninoff breaks your heart. It's slow and gentle and achingly beautiful, built around a melody so simple and so perfect that it feels like it's always existed, like Rachmaninoff didn't compose it but discovered it. Devon plays it like a lullaby, like something you would sing to a baby you would never meet, like a love song to someone who's been gone for 23 years. There's not a dry eye in the lobby. The junior analyst is crying openly, not caring who sees. The night receptionist has her hand over her mouth. The security guard has taken off his cap and is holding it against his chest like he's at a funeral. The cleaning crew is huddled together, some of them crying, some of them praying, all of them witnessing something they never expected to witness in this cold corporate building. And still, Devon plays. The third movement is where Rachmaninoff gives you hope. It's fast and energetic and triumphant, like someone who has been beaten down by life deciding to stand up one more time. Devon's fingers fly across the keys. The music becomes urgent, insistent, demanding that you pay attention, demanding that you feel something, demanding that you remember what it's like to be alive. His whole body is moving now. He's not just playing the piano. He's conducting a conversation with it. His shoulders roll with the phrases. His head tilts back during the crescendos. His foot works the pedals with perfect timing, creating layers of sound that build and build until it feels like the lobby is going to explode. This is virtuosity. This is mastery. This is what happens when technique and emotion fuse so completely that they become indistinguishable. The crowd in the lobby has grown to more than 60 people now. Some of them work in the building. Some of them are neighbors who got texts from friends and walked over in their pajamas to hear what everyone is talking about. Some of them are random people from the street who heard the music through the lobby's glass doors and couldn't resist coming inside. They stand in a semicircle around the piano, maintaining a respectful distance, not wanting to disturb but unable to leave. Some are recording on their phones. Some are just standing there with tears on their faces. Some are holding hands with strangers, bonded by this unexpected moment of beauty in the middle of the night. And on the 50th floor in the penthouse that serves as both Victoria Brennan's residence and her private office, the CEO of Sterling Financial stands at her floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the city, listening to the music that's pouring through every speaker in her building. She hasn't moved in 15 minutes. She's crying. Victoria Brennan is 63 years old. She built Sterling Financial from a mid-level investment firm into a financial powerhouse. She's been featured on the cover of Forbes. She's been called one of the most powerful women in America. She has a reputation for being ruthless, efficient, and emotionally impenetrable. But she's also someone who once dreamed of being a concert pianist. She started piano lessons when she was 5. She practiced 4 hours a day throughout her childhood. She was good, maybe even very good, but she was never great, never transcendent. She could play all the notes, but she couldn't make them sing. She couldn't make them matter. When she was 18, her piano teacher sat her down and gave her the truth that every almost good musician eventually faces. She could have a career in music if she wanted, but she would never be special. She would never be great. She would always be competent, professional, forgettable. So Victoria Brennan did what practical people do when their dreams die. She pivoted. She went to business school. She discovered she had a gift for finance. She built a life that looked successful from the outside, a life that gave her power and money and respect. But she never stopped loving music. And she never stopped grieving for the musician she wasn't talented enough to become. The Steinway in the lobby is hers. She bought it herself with her own money, not company funds. She placed it in the lobby not as decoration, but as a reminder of what she loved, of what she lost, of the beauty that exists in the world even when you can't create it yourself. And now someone is playing her piano. Someone who has no business playing her piano. Some custodian who should be mopping floors and emptying trash. And they're playing it better than she ever could. Better than anyone she's ever heard live. With a passion and a skill and a soul-deep understanding of Rachmaninoff that makes her 20 years of lessons and practice seem like a child's scribbling compared to a master's painting. Victoria's hand reaches for her phone to call security, and then stops. Because whoever is playing shouldn't be stopped. They should be heard. So Victoria Brennan, CEO and owner of Sterling Financial Tower, does something she hasn't done in 15 years. She leaves her penthouse, she walks to the private elevator, and she goes down to see who's playing her piano. The lobby doors to the executive elevator slide open with a soft chime. The music is still playing. The third movement is building to its climax, to the part where everything that's been held back throughout the piece finally breaks free. Victoria Brennan steps out of the elevator, wearing a silk nightgown under a long cashmere coat, her gray hair loose around her shoulders instead of in its usual severe bun. She's not wearing makeup. She looks human, vulnerable. Nothing like the woman whose portrait hangs in the main conference room on the 45th floor. The crowd parts for her instinctively. Even in a nightgown and bare feet, Victoria commands respect. People step aside, creating a clear path from the elevator to the piano. But Victoria doesn't rush. She walks slowly, carefully, as if approaching something sacred. As if one wrong move might shatter the spell. Devon is completely lost in the music. His eyes are closed. His face is tilted upward. Tears continue to stream down his cheeks, and he doesn't wipe them away because his hands are too busy bringing Rachmaninoff to life. He has no idea that he has an audience. He has no idea that his performance is being live-streamed to thousands of people. He has no idea that the CEO of the building is standing 20 feet away watching him. He knows nothing except the music. The third movement reaches its final crescendo. Devon's entire body is engaged now. He's standing slightly leaning into the keys, pulling every last bit of emotion from the piano. The sound fills the lobby, fills the building, fills the night. And then the final chord. Devon's hands come down with perfect force, perfect timing, and the chord rings out pure and true and absolutely devastating in its beauty. And then silence, complete ringing silence. Devon keeps his hands on the keys, his eyes still closed, his chest heaving. For a moment, he exists in that space between the music and the world, that liminal zone where the real and the transcendent overlap. And then he opens his eyes, and he sees them. 67 people standing in the lobby of Sterling Financial Tower at 2:43 in the morning, all of them staring at him. Some with their phones out, some crying, some with expressions of awe that make him feel naked, exposed, terrified. And standing directly in front of the piano, close enough that he could reach out and touch her, is Victoria Brennan. Devon's mind goes blank. Pure panic floods his system. He stands up so quickly that the bench scrapes backward across the marble floor. His hands are shaking. His mouth opens, but no words come out. Victoria just stares at him. The silence stretches. 10 seconds. 15. 20. Someone in the crowd coughs. Someone else shifts their weight. The spell is breaking reality, rushing back in, and Devon suddenly understands the magnitude of what he's done. He touched the piano. The piano that's worth more than his life. The piano with the brass plaque that says, "Do not touch." The piano that belongs to the woman standing in front of him, the woman who owns this building, the woman who can fire him with a single word. "I'm sorry." The words finally come, barely a whisper. Devon's voice is hoarse from disuse and emotion. "I'm so sorry. I'll leave. I'll pack my things. I'm sorry." He moves to step away from the piano, to escape, to disappear back into the invisibility where he's lived for 23 years. Stop. Victoria's voice isn't loud, but it cuts through the silence like a blade. Devon freezes. "What's your name?" Devon swallows hard. "Devon Mitchell, ma'am. I'm one of the custodians. Night shift. I've worked here for 15 years. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have touched it. I know I'm not supposed to. How long have you played?" The question catches Devon off guard. I don't. I mean, I did. A long time ago. But I haven't. Not for 23 years. Not since he stops. He can't say it. Can't say Alicia's name out loud, not here, not in front of all these people. Victoria takes a step closer. Her eyes are red from crying, but her gaze is sharp, penetrating. "Where did you study Curtis Institute?" "In Philadelphia. But I didn't graduate. I left before Curtis." Victoria repeats the word like it's sacred. "One of the best conservatories in the world." Devon nods, miserable. "Yes, ma'am. And you've been working here as a custodian for 15 years. "Yes, ma'am." Why? The question is so simple and so impossible to answer. Why did he give up music? Why did he choose to be invisible? Why did he waste his gift for more than 2 decades? Because Alicia died. Because the music died with her. Because every note he played reminded him of everything he lost. Because it was easier to be nothing than to be something that hurt. But he can't say any of that. So he just says I needed to leave music behind. Victoria studies him for a long moment. Then she looks at the piano, then back at Devon. Play it again. Devon's eyes widen. Ma'am, Rachmaninoff's second. Play it again. I can't. I should go. That's not a request, Mr. Mitchell. That's an order. Victoria's voice is gentle, but firm. Sit down and play it again. Devon looks at the crowd, looks at the piano, looks at his hands, his calloused, scarred working man's hands that somehow impossibly just played one of the most difficult pieces in the piano repertoire perfectly. Slowly, he sits back down at the bench. His fingers find the keys, and he plays it again. This time, he plays with his eyes open. This time, he sees the audience. This time, he watches Victoria Brennan stand 3 feet from the piano, tears streaming openly down her face, making no attempt to hide them. This time he plays not for Alicia, though she's still there in every note. He plays for everyone who's ever lost something, for everyone who's ever given up on a dream, for everyone who's ever felt invisible. He plays for the night receptionist who hates her job but doesn't know what else to do, for the junior analyst who's drowning in student debt and questioning every choice he's made, for the security guard whose daughter wants to be a dancer but he can't afford lessons, for the cleaning crew who came to America with dreams and ended up with mops. He plays for Victoria Brennan, who once wanted to be a concert pianist and settled for being a CEO instead. And he plays for himself, for the 23 years of silence, for the life he didn't live, for the music he didn't share. When he finishes the second time, the lobby erupts in applause. It's not polite concert hall applause. It's raw, emotional, cathartic. People are cheering, crying, hugging strangers. Devon stands overwhelmed, and Victoria steps forward. For a moment, he thinks she's going to shake his hand. Instead, she pulls him into a hug. A real hug. The CEO of Sterling Financial Tower, in her nightgown, hugging the custodian in his work uniform, both of them crying. When she pulls back, she's smiling. I need to tell you something, Devon. Something I've never told anyone in this building. She takes a breath. 30 years ago, I wanted to be you. I wanted to play like you just played. I studied for 20 years, and I never even came close. Do you know what it's like to love something that you're not talented enough to do? To know that no matter how hard you work, you'll never be more than mediocre. Devon nods slowly. He does know. He knows what it's like to lose the thing you love, even if his loss was different than hers. I bought this piano, Victoria continues, because I couldn't let go of the dream. I put it in the lobby where everyone would see it. And I put up that ridiculous sign that says no one can touch it, because if I couldn't play it, if I couldn't make it sing the way it's supposed to sing, then no one else should either. How petty is that? She laughs, a sound that's half joy and half pain. And for 15 years you've been here. You've been cleaning my piano. And you have a gift that I would trade everything I've built for. Everything. And I never knew. She looks at the piano, then back at Devon. I'm not going to let you disappear again. I'm not going to let you waste another 23 years emptying trash when you should be making music. Ms. Brennan, I appreciate that, but I can't just... Starting tomorrow, Victoria interrupts. You're going to play in this lobby every day during the lunch hour, 12 to 12:30. I'm going to set up proper seating. I'm going to promote it. People from all over the city are going to come hear you play, and you're going to be paid. Well, Devon shakes his head. I can't accept that. I'm a custodian. I don't... You're a pianist, Victoria says firmly. You're a pianist who's been hiding for 2 decades, and it's time to stop hiding. Will you still empty trash at night if that makes you feel safer? Fine. Keep the custodian job. But you're going to play piano during the day. That's not negotiable. She leans closer. Do you know what I've built here? An empire of money. 50 floors of people moving numbers around on computers, making rich people richer. It's successful, it's profitable, it's completely meaningless. But what you just did, that mattered. That was real. That reminded every single person in this room that there's more to life than profit margins and quarterly reports. We need that. I need that. Devon looks at the piano, at the crowd that's still watching, waiting to see what he'll say, at this impossible woman who's offering him a second chance he doesn't deserve. I haven't played in 23 years, he says quietly. Not until tonight. I don't know if I can do this every day. I don't know if... You can, Victoria says simply. You just did. Twice. And you'll do it again tomorrow, and the day after that. Because the world needs to hear what you can do. Because you have a gift that you've been hoarding and it's time to share it. And because... She pauses, her voice breaking slightly. Because somewhere someone who loved you would want you to play. Wouldn't they? Devon's breath catches. She's right. Alicia would want him to play. Alicia would be furious that he wasted 23 years. Alicia would tell him to stop being dramatic and to sit at that piano and let the world hear what he can do. Okay, he whispers. Okay, Victoria smiles. It's a real smile, warm and genuine, nothing like the polished corporate smile from the portraits. Good. Now go home, get some sleep, and come back tomorrow at 11:30. We have a concert to prepare for. 6 months later, the lobby of Sterling Financial Tower is unrecognizable. The velvet ropes are gone. The Do Not Touch sign has been replaced with a simple brass plaque that reads Devon Mitchell, Resident Pianist. Performances Monday through Friday, 12:00 p.m. Comfortable seating has been installed in a semicircle around the Steinway. Proper acoustic panels have been added to the ceiling to enhance the sound quality. The lighting has been redesigned to create an intimate concert hall atmosphere. Every weekday at noon, Devon Mitchell walks into the lobby wearing simple, elegant clothes that Victoria insisted on buying for him. He doesn't wear a suit. He doesn't need to pretend to be something he's not. He wears dark jeans and a button-down shirt and comfortable shoes. He looks like a musician. He looks like himself. And every weekday at noon, the seats are full. The lunch concerts have become legendary. Word spread quickly, first through social media, then through local news coverage, then through national news, when someone pitched it as a human interest story. Former Custodian revealed as musical prodigy ran in the New York Times. The pianist who hid in plain sight for 23 years ran in the Washington Post. Devon hates the attention. He refuses most interview requests. But he plays. Every day, Monday through Friday, he sits at the Steinway and plays for 30 minutes. Sometimes he plays Rachmaninoff, sometimes Chopin or Liszt or Beethoven, sometimes he plays jazz, sometimes he plays arrangements of pop songs that make people smile. Sometimes he plays pieces he composes himself, improvisations that flow out of him like water. The audience is different every day. There are the regulars, of course, people who work in the building or nearby and have made Devon's concert part of their daily routine. But there are also tourists who plan their trips to New York around the chance to hear him play. There are music students from Juilliard and Manhattan School of Music who come to study his technique. There are elderly people who remember when live music was more common before everything became digital and algorithmic. There are homeless people who wander in from the street, and the security guards have been instructed by Victoria herself never to turn anyone away. Everyone is welcome at Devon's concerts. Rich or poor, young or old, regular or first-timer, the music belongs to everyone. Devon still works as a custodian at night. He insisted on keeping the position, much to Victoria's exasperation. He says he likes the work, likes the solitude, likes knowing that he's taking care of the building. But everyone knows the real reason he's not ready to completely let go of the identity he built over 23 years. He's not ready to believe that he deserves to only be a musician. Victoria lets him keep the night job. She understands. She knows about the dreams you give up on. She knows about the long, slow process of forgiving yourself for not being who you thought you'd be. But changes are happening whether Devon is ready for them or not. Music schools have started reaching out. He's been offered teaching positions at 3 conservatories. He's declined them all, but the offers keep coming. A recording label wants to produce an album. He's thinking about it. Maybe. Someday. Local music programs for underprivileged kids have asked him to give master classes. These are the only outside appearances he's agreed to. Once a month, he spends a Saturday afternoon working with students who remind him of himself. At that age, kids with raw talent and no resources, kids who need someone to tell them that their dreams are possible. He's established a scholarship fund in Alicia's name, the Alicia Rodriguez Mitchell Memorial Scholarship for Young Pianists from Underserved Communities. It's funded partly by his salary from Sterling Financial and partly by donations that pour in from people who have heard his story. The scholarship provides full tuition and living expenses to Curtis Institute or any other conservatory the recipient chooses. The first recipient is a 15-year-old girl from the Bronx who learned to play on a keyboard from a pawn shop. She reminds Devon so much of himself that he can barely look at her without crying. Her name is Maya. He didn't plan that. He didn't choose her because of her name. But when he saw Maya Johnson on the application, when he heard her play, when he saw the hunger in her eyes for something beautiful in a world that mostly offers struggle, he knew that Alicia was telling him something. He knew that this was what he was supposed to do with his second chance. On a Thursday in November, 6 months and 3 days after the night, Devon first played the piano in Sterling Financial Tower. Something happens that he doesn't expect. The lobby is full for the lunch concert. All the seats are taken. People are standing along the walls. It's a cold day outside, and the warm lobby with its beautiful piano and its quiet musician has become a sanctuary. Devon is playing Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, one of the most beautiful pieces ever written, when he notices someone in the second row. An older black woman. She's wearing an elegant coat and a hat with a small brim. She's crying silently, tears rolling down her weathered face. Devon knows that face. Eleanor Patterson. The woman who ran the community center on the south side of Chicago. The woman who noticed a 7-year-old boy playing a broken piano and made a phone call that changed his life. The woman he hasn't seen or spoken to in 33 years. He finishes the nocturne. The audience applauds. And then he does something he's never done before. He speaks to the audience. "I need to invite someone up here," he says, his voice soft but clear. "Mrs. Patterson, would you please come up?" Eleanor looks shocked. She shakes her head, but the people around her are encouraging her, smiling, and finally she stands. She walks to the piano, slowly leaning on a cane Devon didn't notice before. When she reaches him, Devon stands and hugs her. She's smaller than he remembers. Frailer. But her hug is strong. "I found you," she says, her voice trembling. "I saw the video online. I couldn't believe it was you. My Devon, I thought you had disappeared forever." "I did disappear," Devon says. "For a long time. But I'm back now. And it's because of you. Everything good in my life started with you. Eleanor is crying harder now. I thought I failed you. I heard about what happened in Philadelphia. About your wife. And then you vanished. And I thought, maybe I pushed you too hard. Maybe I shouldn't have. You saved me. Devon interrupts. Twice. Once when I was 7. And again now. Because I remembered what you taught me. That music isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. And I'm finally ready to be honest again. He guides her to the bench. Will you play something with me? Eleanor laughs through her tears. I'm not a pianist, Devon. I just ran the community center. I know. But you're the reason I'm a pianist. So please, just one song. Eleanor sits beside him on the bench. The audience is silent, sensing they're witnessing something sacred. What should we play? Eleanor asks. Devon thinks for a moment. Then he smiles. Do you remember teaching the kids Amazing Grace? You used to play it on that broken upright at the center. Eleanor nods. I remember. Play it with me. Just the melody. I'll do the rest. And so Eleanor Patterson, 78 years old, a woman who never had a formal piano lesson in her life, plays Amazing Grace with one finger, while Devon Mitchell, one of the greatest pianists of his generation, creates a complex, beautiful arrangement around her simple melody. It's not technically perfect. Eleanor misses notes. Her timing is off. But it's the most beautiful thing Devon has played in 6 months. Because it's honest. Because it's grateful. Because it's love made audible. When they finish, the audience gives them a standing ovation that lasts 3 full minutes. It's 10 p.m. on a Friday night. The lunch crowd is long gone. The offices are empty. The lobby is quiet. Devon is finishing his custodial shift. He's mopping the marble floor, the same task he's done 5 nights a week for 15 years. Some things don't change, but some things do. As he works, he hums. Sometimes it's Rachmaninoff. Sometimes it's Chopin. Sometimes it's melodies that don't exist yet that he's creating in real time that will become something beautiful when he sits at the piano tomorrow. He finishes mopping. He puts away his equipment. And then before he clocks out, he does what he does every night now. He sits at the piano in the empty lobby. He plays for no one except himself. And maybe for Alicia. And maybe for Maya, the daughter he never met. And maybe for every version of himself that he lost over the years and is slowly finding again. He plays until his shift is over. Until the music has said everything it needs to say. Until he feels whole. And then he goes home to his studio apartment in Washington Heights. The apartment where he lives alone, but doesn't feel lonely anymore. Because he knows that tomorrow at noon, he'll come back. He'll sit at the piano. He'll play. And for 30 minutes, he'll give the world a gift. The gift that was always inside him, waiting patiently for 23 years, ready to emerge the moment he was brave enough to touch the keys again. Devon Mitchell was a custodian who became invisible because the pain of being seen was too much to bear. But pain doesn't last forever. And gifts, real gifts, don't disappear. They just wait. They wait for the moment when you're ready to share them. When you're ready to be vulnerable. When you're ready to let the world see who you really are. And when that moment comes, when you finally step into the light and offer yourself honestly and completely, something magical happens. The world steps into the light with you. Your story isn't over. Your song isn't finished. Whatever gift you've been hiding, whatever dream you've given up on, whatever piece of yourself you've buried, because it hurt too much to hold it in the light, it's still there. Waiting for you. Waiting to be heard.